today we are going to take a look at Star Trek Captain's Chair. Now, one thing I haven't talked about on this channel is that I am a big Star Trek nerd. Really have loved this for a long time. And I've seen in the past that there have been Trek games that haven't been that great. And so when I saw this, I heard a little bit about it earlier in the year, saw the stuff for it at Gen Con, and wasn't sure if I really wanted to get into that because, first of all, this is a deck building game and I haven't gotten into a lot of really true deck builders. Hadn't got into those, and a lot of the games hadn't been good. But after looking and seeing reviews of this, it really looked quite good, and I've liked it a lot. And so we're gonna get a video review on this thing. So this is based off of the mechanics from a game Imperium. There's a whole series of Imperium games where you're building up this civilization, although they have done a number of other things to it, which is really interesting. And I'll point out the two or three most interesting things that they've done to this to really make it its own game. A lot of those, some of the Imperium fans say that this is actually quite a bit improved upon. So just to get going with it here, the premise behind this is set in the 32nd century, late enough that basically they can include Discovery in it. And it's basically a simulation, which is how these different captains are able to face up against each other and pull a lot of people in ships from different points in the Star Trek timeline. Let's go ahead and get this all set up here real quick. Okay, so this is a 2-player or a solo game where you either play against another player or you play against a bot. I've set up here Cisco versus Picard, and as you can see, it doesn't quite all fit under view of the camera here on the table. Each character will have their deck, their player board here, which will have their different focus tracks, which will represent science, influence, and military. Some of the cards are going to have values on them that will be based off of the focus tracks there. So the further along you are on the track, the more it is worth. But with your deck, you have your main deck, which we can look through Picard's deck here and see some of the cards in it. We'll see things you would expect, like Worf, Will Riker, Farpoint Station being in here as a location, some directive cards that let you do things. It doesn't have any cargo or items in there. It does have an incident red alert, which incidents are bad. In addition to that, you have a reserve deck, which would actually be sitting face down. These are some other ones that you can get that will go into your hand at some point. But here we see we've got Shuttlecraft, Data, Beverly Crusher, and First Contact. And then once you go through those, you can start recruiting your development cards. And the development cards start getting a lot better. We start getting your Starbase, Phasing Cloak, and some of the other characters like Deanna, Troy, and Geordi, and even a whole race like the Temerians or something like the Daystrom Institute. This is a deck builder where you'll have your starting deck of cards here. Once you play completely through this and they all end up in the discard, you would shuffle this to make a new deck, but you also end up taking one of these and pull one of these into your deck, which is where those reserves come from. Once you go completely through the reserves, you can start to enlist those development cards. Now, additionally, you've got other cards here that can be taken out of the market. We have persons, cargo, ships, and allies. And these all can do different things on here. So you get a lot of different effects as we go through the person deck here. We'll have some of these are going to be some pretty minor characters, little one-offs. Some of them, like Rom, will be a recurring character. Harry Mudd, who was actually played by two different actors over the original series and Discovery. Just a lot of different, even some like Phlox, who was a regular character on Enterprise, Loxana Troy, Peanut Hamper from Lower Decks, because they're putting the animated characters in here. Zephram Cochrane, who's pretty prominent. One of the Duras sisters, Lursa, but not both of them. And we see the same thing with like ships. We'll have some here that'll be things that you recognize. Some of these will be some pretty deep cuts. A lot of them are a lot more well-known. We do have something like the Voth research vessel, which gets Voyager into this game. And the same thing with like the cargo, bunch of different things. Got these little things. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm leaving these up here. And allies, which are just alien races, which can end up becoming your allies in the game. Even one of the races that we've only ever seen on the 70s animated series, just because that third arm was a little hard to do in live action. As we see on these here, we'll see that there's different effects on these. Like we'll grab this one here just to show that it has a play and an activation. Well, that is one of the things that they have done interesting with this, is that some of the cards can just be played directly out of your hand, which is going to be the white play effect up there. But then you have the other one, which is the activation, and that means you are playing them off the table, which means they will have either been, if it's like an item or a ship, they will have been deployed. If it's a person, you can end up putting them in as a duty officer when you pick them up. And then your duty officer will stay out there on the table, and just every turn you can just activate them. So one of the things you have to figure out on these is if you want to do the play effect or if you want to do use them for the activation. If you just use them for the play, you're going to play them the one time, put them down there and use them, and then at the end of the turn they'll be discarded. They'll come around again whenever you draw them again, but they aren't just right back out there for you. Whereas if they're the duty officer, they're pretty much just out there the whole time. Ships kind of do a similar thing, that they can be deployed. Like Picard here starts off with the Enterprise D already being deployed, so he starts the game with his ship. Cisco kind of starts with a ship, but not really. Deep Space Nine is really, it's like listed as a ship, but we see here that this ship cannot be warped. What does that mean? Warped? Well, we'll get into that. That you can warp your ship to locations. We'll have different locations that will be down here. And these locations are things that you will end up fighting over. Well, fighting. You put your ships on them. You will send away teams to them. But if ever at the start of your turn you have 2 more tokens on that card than your opponent, you end up taking that location, and it goes up here as a controlled location and is now in play. So besides getting the points, you get whatever the abilities are on there. The immediate thing that happens when you take control of it, and then your activations that you can get. You'll also see that there are cards that will have resupply. Now the resupply action will happen right at the beginning of your turn there. So if Cisco were to have Quark in as his duty officer, the resupply would give you Latinum right there at the start of your turn. Latinum is one of the expendables in it. You have Latinum, which is a currency, gold pressed Latinum. You have dilithium, which is what makes things go. We need things to make us go. You have glory, which are points. They also kind of work as the game tracker. There's a lot going on that we have to keep going over here. And also you have actions, which are represented by these little fake isolinear chips. and each player has 3 actions. Now, some things that you can do on cards will cost you an action, such as looking at Analyze here for a moment. Those first 2 play effects we see have the action symbol there next to it, but that third one down there does not. So if you were to play this card for one of these top 2 effects, you would spend one of your actions and put that on it. If you are just going with the third one, you would just put it down there, and just officially the rules are you tip it sideways. A lot of us find that this game is really, really tight, and don't have a whole lot of room for ticking cards sideways. So you find something else to represent the card being exhausted. Now, I talked about glory tokens earlier, and the glory also kind of ends up being part of your timer. So each of these cards, we're going to go ahead and dunk the glory off of this for a moment so you can read it. You have these start 8 cards, and you will have up to 5 of them there. They tell you there in the bottom left how many glory tokens start on it. At the end of every turn, a player will take one of these glory tokens and stick it on one of the 4 market cards. So whenever that card is picked up by somebody, they get that glory with it. And so that's one way that you end up gaining glory and gaining points. And this ends up being a really bit of a mind game here, because you got to decide where you want to put these glory tokens. Do you want to put them on something that you want? Well, sticking the glory token on it just makes it like more appealing to your opponent. So maybe you stick it on something else, but you don't want to stick it on something that they really want to get. So every time all of the tokens get taken off of a card here, that card gets discarded, and then you'll do what it says on it during the next player's cleanup step. Wipe the market, including removing all the tokens that are on it, and then you're down to 1 less card. And this is kind of your timer for the game. Now, not only do you use that glory at the end of your turn, but also any glory that you get during the game will come off of these cards. If a card tells you to get glory, you get it here and not from the supply. And this is one of the big things that a lot of people make mistakes with. They will get the glory from the supply instead of from here, and that ends up making this game drag out. And there's a lot of characters that have a lot of things that will gain glory. Koloth, being a Klingon, he is all about trying to gain glory. So he's got cards that will give him glory, like Krell right here has that. The Disruptors have a way to get glory. Arn Darvin, Mara can actually have that as her resupply to get one. So if you make her your duty officer, she's just literally taking a glory at the start of every turn and just speeding this game along and giving Koloth a big stack of glory. I guess I didn't talk about who all was in this game, did I? So who all is in this game? Well, we have Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Captain Benjamin Sisko, Captain Michael Burnham, Sela, Captain Shran, and Koloth. Shran being from Enterprise, Koloth being from the original series. It came back on Deep Space Nine, the same actor to play that. Got the updated Klingon makeup when they did that. And then Sela was the half Romulan character that was kind of the daughter of an alternate version of Tasha Yar. It's timeline shenanigans. It's a complicated character. But as we go through the glory here, the last card here says, trigger the end of the game. So that is your timer, and it kind of keeps this game moving along here. As you can see, I have sleeved all my cards because this is a deck building game, so you're going to be doing a ton of shuffling. The insert that came with it is nice, but it does not fit the cards in it when they are sleeved, which this is a deck building game, guys. People are going to sleeve this thing. Come on. But I was able to find some nice files for some 3D printed inserts that will hold them all. Gives you nice little things to stick your captains in. You see here on Picard's thing here that we've got 5 away teams that he starts with. He has the traits here of Starfleet and Human. He has a thing here, after gaining an ally, discard a card to gain 1 glory, and you may beam the gain card to a ship. You can put cards onto ships. Sometimes you want to do that for certain effects needed. Also, as you're trying to thin out your deck, putting them onto a ship is a good way to get them out of the deck. Now, if that ship is ever recalled, it goes back into the deck, and everything that was beamed to the ship, you can beam any type of card to a ship, but any type of card that was on that ship would go back to it as well. Additionally, you can kind of like not permanently remove them, but you can also log cards, which is you'll end up sticking it under your captain's card, and those will just be completely out of play now. You still get the points for those cards, but they're not taking up room in your deck. So let's just go through a couple here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we can look at the different cards here. We've got, in this case, some directives, which just lets you do things, and then we have 2 persons, Worf and Will Riker. One thing we might want to start with is, since we have the Enterprise already here, we may want to deploy the Enterprise and actually send it somewhere. We can spend a dilithium to do that, so we take our dilithium and we spend it, deploy it to one of these locations. This one's worth 1 point, but it has some nice effects on it that you can do. This one's 5 and this one's 3. These are only ever going to do just a control action on them. This one will let you send like away teams to locations, which is kind of nice. But we'll go ahead and drop it there on that. And since we used the Enterprise, we'll mark that we did that. This did not require an action, so that does not take one of the 3 actions. We're going to look at these. Now, by doing that, if I wanted to make Riker or Worf my duty officer, the card that does that is the Enterprise, and I will have tied it up by sending the Enterprise there. So if I didn't want to do that, I could leave the Enterprise there and promote one of these persons in my hand to duty officer. And I may decide to do that. I may decide that I want to have Riker in there as my duty officer to get his effects. So you can see there's a lot of decision points here. We're going to go ahead and go with this. What we'll do next to get some away teams there, I'm going to take this one. This one does take an action, but it's take an incident and discard it. And discard the top card of the deck and send 2 away teams to a neutral location. Now, the incidents are bad. These are all negative things. They take up space in your deck. You have to do something to get rid of it. This is early in the game. I don't mind taking an incident to get some of those there. I also have to discard the top card of my deck, which was Farpoint Station. Farpoint Station is useful because if I can put an away team on it, I can draw a card every turn. And get an additional card in my hand instead of just a 5. I would have liked that, but I had to discard it for this effect. And it says also, if I do, I gain a glory. The glory comes off that card, so it's already 1 less glory that's on there now. Now, one thing to look at here is what your captains all want to do, and you'll see that they all have these things on here, these different goals that they want to accomplish here. One that Picard wants to do is to have 3 allies on the same ship and at least 2 of these tracks at 4. So that's the stuff that he wants to do there. And we can see that one of Picard's cards here is Diplomacy, which will let you gain an ally and log this card. So you can use it once to gain an ally. Now, I don't have any more dilithium at the moment. I can use Glory as either 1 latinum or 2 dilithium. But instead of doing that, what I may do is I can just play Analyze here which is a free action on it to gain 2. So I put it down here, down there, and play it. Put that on it. Gain some dilithium. Spend the lithium to draw 2 cards and discard one of them and gain an influence, or I can gain an ally and log it. I'm going to go ahead and just spend this that I just got there. Drop that on it and go ahead and draw 2 cards, discard one of them, and then gain the 1 influence. So I've got to discard one of these to either recruit or set a course. Got to get rid of one of these 2 here. This one lets me gain a person or gain an ally. This one lets me send away teams out, or do this whole thing again of draw a card and discard a card and warp up to 2 of my ship, which I don't have anymore. I'm going to go ahead and put that one in there because I'm going to play this one. Put a card on the top of my deck to gain an ally, or do I want to do that because I'm running out of cards here? Take an incident, sorry. And I can play this one, take an incident and gain an ally, which I'll go ahead and do. So I'm going to take another incident. Got to deal with these incidents later, but this will give me an ally. When I gain them, they just go into my deck there, and that brings out a new ally. Now, Picard's ability is I can discard a card to gain a glory token, and I can beam the gained card to a ship. Go ahead and do that. The Enterprise is probably going to get recalled here in a bit, but I'll go ahead and do that because I am not going to play Riker this turn, so we'll discard him. That'll put the Hawking Council there, and it gives me another glory. So you can see how glory can disappear pretty quick out of there. Now I've just got this one here. I can either gain the specialty tracks for each matching skill icon. And we'll look and we'll see that some of the cards will have skill icons on them. Like the Enterprise has that, which can be any one. So I could move one of these up if I wanted to. Or I can get some dilithium. And I think right now I would like to have some more dilithium. That's going to be based on like controlled locations. I really don't have a lot of controlled locations at the moment. So I can either move up 1 or get 1 dilithium. So I got to decide which way I want to do this. Like I said, a lot of different ways that you can do things. Let's go ahead and get the 1 dilithium here. One other thing is Picard's effect here is a reaction. So it doesn't expend it when the reaction happens. Also, it has the end gain effect of gain 1 for each of your ally cards. So, you know, that's giving me an additional point on top of the 3 that was already there for this guy. At this point, I don't think any of my cards can do anything. So we're going to just gather up these. Go ahead and take those off, unexhaust those. We'll put these into my discard. And we're going to draw 5 cards. 1, 2, we take the top reserve card, which will go in there now. 3, and then we will shuffle these up. 4 and 5. That was actually pretty good because I was able to go through enough cards there that I was able to hit my reserve deck at the end of my first turn. That doesn't always happen. And now I've got to take one of these, and there's only 2 left on that glory. There's only 2 glory left on that Stardate card. Got to decide who I'm going to put this on. I really like allies, so I don't want to take them. Cisco wants to have ships deployed because that's kind of his thing up here. The reason you want to do this is if you want to gain any points from anything referencing these, you've got to do that. And they will all the captains will have a different one. You can go to the advanced mode. There's 3 different ones that you could get any of those, and then you start getting points for them. But the trackers here will get you less points than they do on the basic side. So I don't want to put on a ship because Cisco likes ships. Put it on an ally so that I could get it. I might could get it there. Cisco's not as big into getting allies. Let me put that there. Okay, so we're going to go to Cisco's deck here. We'll go through a turn of him. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 2 characters on here, Kira and Jadzia. Political crisis, which was one of these incidents that's bad. You start off with some of these in your deck and you can gain them. Another thing about the incidents is if all the incidents ever go away, that ends the game. And whoever has the most incidents like in their possession ends up losing. So you do not want to do a whole lot of gaining incident cards. One thing we got is Bajor has a similar effect there, that if you have an away team on Bajor, you can draw a card. And I got a thing here that will let me send away teams to the same location. So I'm going to play that card. I have to discard a person, so it's either going to be Kira or Dax. I am going to go ahead and discard Kira, get rid of her, which will let me send an away team there to Bajor. Now I can activate Bajor and draw another card, and I got another card in my hand. Cisco wants to have like 4 ships deployed and needs to have his influence or military at 7. Deploying to Rio Grande would be a really good idea because I don't have a ship at the moment, so we'll do that. We'll get to Rio Grande, which will be here, so that'll be good. Have that ship that we can use next turn. I've still got 2 actions. Play this and get rid of it. I have to discard a card to get rid of it there. I could promote her to duty officer. I don't know that I really want her as a duty officer. I think I would rather just play her. So I can either spend a latinum to get rid of an incident, or move up the tracker and spend a latinum to do it a second time. I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and also spend the latinum. Go ahead and bump that up twice there, which will be a good thing for me. And now I just got these cards. And I can either get rid of this incident card. So discard this to get rid of the incident, because I still do have 1 action left here. Or I could put a card on top of the deck to gain a person, or take an incident to gain an ally. An ally is not really anything that interests me. The person isn't all that great. Let's discard a card, spend the action to go ahead and get rid of this political thing, which will go there. Then I would draw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take that one to be 5. Those actions will go away. These cards will go back into there. And this deck reshuffles for me to use later. There's only like 4 cards in that deck at the moment. Let me see, I've got some ships. We got some stuff I can use next time. The Wormhole. I picked up the Defiant out of the reserve, which is really nice to be able to get early, so that's great. And then I'm going to grab one of these tokens here and stick on something. I'm going to go ahead and stick it on this ship here, because I don't think Picard's going to grab that ship. I think Picard's going to be more interested in getting the Binars. And so you can see how this has moved along here, and at this point there's only like 1 more glory on that, and that top card will go away. So things actually can move pretty quick here. I think about the only other thing I haven't gone over is going to be the encounter cards. Now these are some special high point cards. Some of these have high values on them. Some of them just do some crazy things. This is stuff that you'll have some cards in each deck that will give you encounters. And we have some different stuff like the Omega Particle, V'ger, Guardian of Forever, Shakari. These are all, if you're a Star Trek fan, you remember all these. Which, like, Guardian of Forever is only 3 points. But it does gain you some stuff, and the passive of increasing your hand size by 1. And then also we're calling a non-time travel card from your staging area. So something you've put down in the staging area already played, You can do that again, and take an incident to get an action. You only get to do that once because it logs, but it gives you some pretty big stuff there. You get some others like the koala. That's a lower decks gag. And V'ger with 9. And V'ger allowing you to log up to 2 cards from your hand or discard pile with a value of 9. V'ger is really, I think, like the strongest one out of all these encounters. And so we would go through this here and go through each of the steps on here to resupply. We don't have anything to resupplies. Do we have a control? We do have a control of this location here. So we would do that. The Enterprise would be recalled, and the Enterprise and the Hawken Council would go to the discard. We would pick this up, stick it right up here since it is a controlled location. And another one would come out there, in this case Beta Z. The control effect on this is I can junk 2 cards from the market, which is just throw them away and get rid of them if I want to. I can't junk the ones with the glory on them. Cloaking device really isn't all that interesting to me, so we'll junk that one, and we'll go ahead and junk Lanara and see if something more interesting come out. So we got the Horta and Jortdal. And then you would go through your actions. Here's Picard. Got 5 cards for that. And you would just go through the actions that way. That's basically what is going on with it here. You can see there were a lot of decision points in there in each of these opening hands here for Picard and Sisko. If you're prone to like analysis paralysis, this is going to be something that'll give you a hard time because you get so many different things you can do with your cards. You can see how the incident cards can start jamming up your hand here pretty quick because I've got 2 of the 5 cards are incidents. I think it's just a really interesting system. It gives you a lot of different ways to play things there, with multiple different things that each of the cards can do, and a lot of different card options that you have sitting out there on the table. Each of the captains ends up playing very differently and have different things that they want to do there. Picard is about getting allies. Sisko wants to get ships deployed. Scylla just needs to like max out her military and influence. Shran is about controlling locations, wants to get a bunch of locations out there. Koloth wants deployed ships and controlled locations. Burnham has this weird gimmick where the dilithium that she gets is initially inert and it has to be recrystallized. And she distributes out the lithium and puts the lithium on the cards instead of glory. Of course, there's going to be expansions to this that bring in the other captains because people are looking at it and they're like, where's Kirk? Where's Janeway? Well, these are going to be showing up, and some of the others, well, some of them will be showing up. We're going to have Boldly Go, which will be coming out, which will have Kirk, Khan, Archer, Georgiou, Saval, and Rebner, the Pack-led captain from Lower Decks. Then there will also be a second contact set, which is going to be not a full set. Boldly Go will be a full set that's actually a playable game. Second contact is going to be an expansion with 3 captains in it, which would be Pike, Captain Freeman from Lower Decks, and William Riker as captain of the Titan as he was depicted in Lower Decks. We've got cards in here, some card effects and stuff that are referencing Borg drones and Borg collective tokens, and some effects about if your captain is a Borg that you can assimilate a card. When you look that up here in the manual, those terms, all it says is those terms don't have any meaning right now. We dread the day that they do. So I think that we're going to be seeing Janeway and a Borg captain, probably the Borg Queen, that would end up being in another set that hasn't been announced yet. We'd have some others that you would expect to see at some point. I think we don't really have a Cardassian captain yet, so I think Dukat would be an option on there. I could see another Klingon, either like Chang from Undiscovered Country or Worf's brother Kern showing up on there. But there's a lot of ways that a lot of other captains can show up in this. And really, once you get the hang of it here, if you're taking your glory off of here like you're supposed to, this whole thing will end up going, it'll be less than 2-hour games. Now, I talked about the solo mode, and that solo mode is going to utilize these cards here. We'll grab Cisco's cards here. That the bot will do things, basically, you draw a card off of their deck, and then you start with the trait card. If it has traits up here that match any of these, Transcendent, Starbase, Bajoran, Changeling, Dominion, or Attack, you end up doing one of those. If not that, then you take the suit, which is the type of card it is, incident, ship, ally, cargo, person, directive, encounter, or location, and you follow that. The suit card will have a side with and without a duty officer, so it gives them a few different ways that they can end up doing things, so it's not always the same, because they have cards that will promote and dismiss duty officers, so this will be constantly flipping between the two sides. And each of the bots plays differently. There's also a campaign mode that you can do, not a legacy, but a campaign mode that can be done for all of these, where you can like level up as you play multiple different games. Generally speaking, Picard is probably the easiest one in here to play. Guess they wanted to make him the most accessible. Cisco isn't really too difficult there. Sela can be a real powerful, aggressive one. One of the crazier bots to play against. Koloth has got a little bit more going on with his, but not too bad. Burnham is probably the most complex one. Not necessarily difficult to play, but complex. Shran is listed as being an easier one, and he's not a complicated deck, but he seems harder to win with. Really been enjoying this game. Really looking forward to the expansions. And it's kind of got me into a different type of card game, something that I had never really gotten into before. So if you found this video interesting, give it a thumbs up and a like. You can go down into the comment section and let me know what your thoughts are down there. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Make sure you catch all the videos I post so you don't miss anything. This is Jeremy with Point Extra G, and we'll see you around next time.